Now, back to our task here in the third research plan for Spanish Baroque project. I, of course, since I'm pretending to direct this third research, I cannot accept neither of these two positions. They don't work for what I want to do. So they have it's somewhat devastating attitude, saying this object is only a bad symptom of something very negative and should not exist. What I cannot accept is people would go into a research field and say what the object is thought to be, what it ought to be, what it must be, the musts of the object, to impose to the object we want to observe how it should behave or what it should be. I cannot do that. I cannot accept that because I want to see what is on the table, what is going on in contemporary culture, not what is supposed to go on. So that's important, and I don't want, on the other side, go into cultural archetypes. I think I'm too much of a historically interested person to say that there are cultural archetypes, they're always the same, all over in all cultures. I don't feel at ease doing this kind of work. I know it can be done, but I don't want to go into that extreme. So we have to situate ourselves, I hope so, somewhere between these two extremes in this big debate that has been going on in Baroque studies already. But how do we go about this? Now the framing of it, how can we do that? How do we go into it? How can we establish criteria? How to draw the lines? How to establish a workable path of research that makes it possible? So what I, in the second part, would like to do is go into what I call a phenomenology of a traveling concept. No, it's not phenomenology, it's phenomenography of a traveling concept. That is, instead of theorizing and even ideologizing our research field first, instead of legislate on the musts and the don'ts, and instead of establishing the devoir être of our object, let us have a look at historical facts. I know this is a problematic concept, but if I say historical phenomena, I think it's already a little bit easier to go with it, as they are observable. And let us try to observe them with as little preconceptions and disciplinary blinkers as possible. And in this I leave Michel Marchesoli, a little bit of a dissenter, dissident sociologist, French sociologist, Michel Marchesoli. He proposes this. Anytime he's a sociologist, so we have to look at society as it is today, not as we like it to be. And he was the one who opposed the general kind of doxa that our society is individualistic. And he came out observing that there are neo-tribal behaviors in our culture. Because neo-tribalism, for instance, a rave, goes into that kind of behavior of especially the younger part of our society. So I take this from Michel Marchesoli. We have to look around. What is there? Now, I start out with a historical reminder before I look at a contemporary culture or what is going on in contemporary culture. We should not forget that this Baroque is indeed a historically exogenous concept that means it has been made up post factum. And contrary to Romanticism or Enlightenment, there was a debate in the 18th century about what Enlightenment is and in how far we are enlightened people. Or the Romantics used the word Romantics to identify themselves. There was no Baroque artist, or as far as I know, saying, I'm a Baroque, or we are doing Baroque thing. Baroque was invented in the 19th century, from the beginning of the mid-19th century. And, well, I know best the German scene of the Baroque, of the setting up the Baroque concept. Probably there are other scenes I know a little bit less, but I find it highly interesting that a place, a geographical, geocultural area, where the Baroque had an existence, but not the strongest existence, would set up the concept of the Baroque, starting with Burkhard de Cicerone in 1855 about, and then we come, Gurlitt, historian of architecture, and then we come to Wolfin, 1888, the ones I've already mentioned, and then we come into people like Riegel in Austria, Weisbach, who set up that this is a culture of counter-reform, and then Wuringer, who says it's kind of a new way of the Gothic. Right? So and the interest of these people was setting up a national German culture. That was the interest of knowledge. And then Strich brought it over from history of arts to literature, and Cisarz too, and then Benjamin in 1927 with the big Trauerspiel book. So there's a whole tradition of setting up the concept. And of course with cognitive interests, that they had a reason to do that at that moment. So it's a concept that has already been transferred in a certain way from the 17th to the 19th and 20th century as a making up of a concept. Okay, so that would be the first thing. Now, looking at contemporary uses, that is, in all kinds of forms of return, resurgence, resilience, recycling, imitation, parody, influence, and probably there are more terms to designate what happens when the Baroque comes back today. I think we could maybe distinguish between an internal perspective, looking at it from the inside of cultural production, and a more external. Let me give you a few examples. It might become clear. If we look at it from the inside, we have, on the one hand, in this phenomenography, lots of references to the Baroque by contemporary artists. They refer to the Baroque. They think about it. They even claim that they are Baroques. For instance, in Quebec, we have René de Rouen, who has written that book that is over there, Paraiso, La dualité du Baroque. He's an artist, but he has written a book on the Baroque. So there's a relationship between what he's doing as an artist and what he thinks about the Baroque. Peter Greenaway is somebody who has done lots of commentaries on the Baroque, and then he also has produced things that are Baroque or neo-Baroque. Joël Desrosiers, I think Hugh Hazelden is going to talk about him. He is a Haitian migrant writer here in Quebec, here, over there, over there, on the other side of the river. In Quebec, he has written on the Baroque. Severino St. an excellent example. I think Sousa is going to talk about him. So artists, contemporary artists, refer to the Baroque and are interested in thinking about the Baroque. That's one thing. But then we have explicit recyclings of Baroque cultural material. If you look at that exhibition catalogue, the Ultra Baroque, we have lots of recyclings taking up examples of the Baroque which an historian of art will recognize as Baroque elements coming from the Baroque. But then we have references to the Baroque period in works of artists, in the works themselves. Greenaway, again, Prospero's books, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover, lots of references to Baroque paintings. And Derek Jarman, his nice movie on Caravaggio. Or for, the two films you're going to talk about. We have Bembert and then we have Ruiz. So those are artists, they refer directly and explicitly to Baroque material. Or we have maybe Godard, Passion. A few Godards, but the one I know best is Passion, and there he refers at least to Rembrandt, very, very explicitly.